Hey traders, checking into the stock market today. So bears coming out with some force and putting a little exclamation point on it at the end of the day. Apple was a clue to be looking for weakness in the NASDAQ, and I will show you why. So let's start with that one. How could the strongest tech sector name up at all-time highs, gapping up open? How is that a clue for NASDAQ weakness? So this is my mindset heading into the morning. We have a wall of resistance on the NASDAQ futures chart. Rejection, 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 rejection. So we got 8 tops at that level, and we're testing it again pre-market heading into the open. I know Apple is gapping up. What does Apple look like? Apple has been a raging bull. Higher low every single day, 6 days in a row. Big strong day Friday, closing at the high, gap up to all-time highs. So I enter the morning saying, if we see any kind of consolidation on Apple, at that point in time, we had no hourly consolidation and we gapped up. So even just a little pullback, we're looking for an hourly high or low. Any hourly consolidation in Apple, knowing its importance in the NASDAQ, is going to lead to a NASDAQ resistance rejection. I could not fathom a scenario this morning where Apple consolidates and the NASDAQ breaks an 8 quintuple octuple top, a lot of tops. I can't imagine a scenario where that would take place. We would need some kind of massive news for Amazon to then run 5% for that to happen. So I could say to myself, approaching the morning, the NASDAQ will reject from this resistance if we see any kind of consolidation in Apple after the bell rings. So we need to be watching Apple for daily consolidation just because of how extended it was. You look back at some historical RSI levels, and yes, RSI can get extended in blue sky breakout, but the 4-hour RSI was up at 80, and you can see we've only been up above 80 a couple times in the last 2 years. And at that point, again, the hourly time frame high as well, over 80. When you see no hourly consolidation the day before and something is extended on the daily time frame, that's a clue for me to be watching for hourly consolidation today. So we got Apple consolidation. We chopped around a bit. We had a little bit of a fake out. Bears first thing in control, new high of the day, but just a double top at the high of pre-market, and then bears took over. So once those bears took over, that rejection from the NASDAQ futures resistance was then a lot more confidence building. SPY is holding on better because other sectors are not as weak as QQQ today, but SPY did break the low of Friday right into the close, and we're now looking at 466.14. And if that level breaks, I'm still viewing it a daily uptrend, but at that point, the daily bull flag will then become less likely, and we'll be looking for a higher low compared to 448.92. At that point, I'll be watching the EMA 12 to see if the bulls are able to hold that level on the next test. So we did end with weakness. Hourly lower high, bear flag on SPY confirmed into the end of the day, and bear flag on QQQ. I was a little bit frustrated because as I was heading into the live stream at the end of the day, I top fished. I entered SQQQ right here, looking for the potential of a 30-minute bear flag. And essentially it was QQQ failing to change the 15-minute trend. We then held the low of the day. And if I were in a bigger position, I would have certainly taken some profit. But at the position size, it was just, I'm either going to get stopped out with a new high here, or we're going to roll over into a new low of the day. And we broke resistance. I stopped out by 1 penny on SQQQ, and then it rolled over into making the trade worthwhile. So a little bit frustrating, but just a penny difference. And again, a lot of people get frustrated on a setup like that. And for me, it's just, my mindset, again, it's always taking the positive mindset when you are able to. And my mindset is I was a penny away from nailing the setup, and I just missed. And so next time I just need to tweak things a little bit, maybe give a little bit more wiggle room, maybe take a little bit of profit once we fail breaking the new low of the day. And that is a positive spin on getting stopped out right at the low. I will take that positive spin every time. Yeah, I stopped out at 617. I gave a penny of wiggle room, 2 pennies. That was me right there. That's me. Small loss, nothing notable, but solid win. 3/4 of a day maker. SMH. So SMH is weak. Relative weakness comparative to QQQ today. We know QQQ is impacting semiconductors we have names like AMD dropping to a lower low already. NVDA is not yet, but we're right there. So both AMD and NVDA led the way to the upside as lead bulls, and they're now leading the way to the downside. Look at MU. MU has been much weaker than NVDA and AMD, but it's holding on much stronger now. So I would call that a little bit of intersector rotation. Funds leaving NVDA and AMD after their massive runs, and some of those funds going to MU because MU did nothing but pull back while those names were breaking out. So April to October, we've got 6 months of pullback, and just look at what NVDA did during those 6 months and AMD did during those 6 months. 3 weeks of downside, MU, 3 weeks, a little bit of green, holding on much better. So this is an intersector rotation example. But SMH overall, still holding the lows, even though some of the lead bulls in the sector previously are at their lows or breaking them. So the big question for the next 2 days, can SMH, keeping in mind, Wednesday, FOMC, Friday, quad witching. So there's a lot going on this week. Everybody's looking towards Wednesday as far as expecting some volatility. But SMH has to hold 290.51, and the bulls must confirm an hourly trend change back in their favor for a daily higher low to be shaping up. And we got a clear hourly downtrend the last few days, keeping those bears in short-term control. So if we see red tomorrow, if the hourly RSI on SMH gets down into the low 20s on a solid red day tomorrow, there will be a potential bottom fish off of that support level. Something to keep an eye on, keeping in mind QQQ will have to help any bounce for SMH. Tesla tested the low. 950 is a double bottom. But bulls aren't proving anything. I need an hourly trend change back to the bulls as baby step number 1 for that daily double bottom to hold. If 950 breaks, it's 944 and then a gap fill at 910. Had a nice trade on Friday with Tesla, playing this 5-minute higher low, seeing relative strength comparative to QQQ and SPY, which were hitting new lows of the day. And I held a half a position all the way into the close. Unfortunately, we opened very weak and I exited right at the open, gave back some profit. Tried an oversold bounce play on Tesla right here. Sold half into the bounce, break even stop loss, stopped out. So that was another trade I took today. Break even, did that during the live stream, and I'm very pleased with that bounce. I wouldn't change anything about it. Set myself up to benefit if we saw a broader market bounce and strength, and because we didn't, I didn't lose a penny. So selling into that short-term bounce because I am playing counter short-term trends. But EV names still weaker as well. Again, if QQQ is dropping, we're watching EV and semiconductors. NIO held on a bit better. Still a lot of space for a daily higher low on NIO. RIVN holding on well. Trying to confirm the first daily trend change to the bulls in its history. Inverse head and shoulders setup. If IWM, if QQQ, if Tesla, if they bounce tomorrow, keep an eye on RIVN. Healthcare, lead bull. Look at this V-shaped move. Weekly higher low set. And without a daily trend change, we are back in a weekly uptrend. Higher low and higher high. All-time high is being tested here, less than 1% away. So I would have been looking, and I was looking, for the potential of a bearish entry with 135.34. Look at this, set the tone for the day. So the setup is we're extended. No daily trend change. Ripper of a bull move for 6 days in a row, right into resistance. First thing this morning, 135.34. First thing this morning, 5-minute time frame, look where we reject, 135.27, and we go right back to the low of the day. This right here dictates momentum on the morning. Think of these two different scenarios. Scenario 1, which is what happened, you hold the low of the day, you 5-minute equilibrium, you break resistance, and you keep a 5-minute uptrend for hours from there. Scenario number 2, if you break a new low of the day there, you are affirming that top fishing play for bears. You are telling bulls, hey, we just double topped, you might want to take profit, and that's when you start to see follow through. So that hold, it looks insignificant, right? Big deal. But for me, that hold right there dictates the entire morning. And there are many times you'll see that happen. That's why the first 15, 20 minutes are so key as to direction. And that's why I'm just staring at our ETFs all first 20 minutes. Where is money going? Who's standing out as a lead bull? Who's a lead bear? Who's stronger? Who's weaker? Are we all going in the same direction? Are we inverse to each other? Those are the questions I'm looking for answers to in the first 20 minutes of trading. XLF, daily little bull flag attempt failed. So at this point, I'm just viewing it as a low, a high of the bounce, and now the bulls must hold 37.54 and break 39.48 for the bulls to prove anything. And if that doesn't look clear to you, condense it to the 2-day time frame. It's more clear. So just looking back at the last 2 weeks, fear dump. We hit a fear low. We see a big bounce. The vast majority of everybody, ETFs and individual names, have not confirmed daily trend changes from those big bounces, XLF included. You know, Tesla had a great bounce. Tesla did not confirm the daily trend change, and here we are testing the lows. That bounce on Tesla, 950, that's a 12% bounce. Straight back down. Must confirm trend changes for bulls to regain confidence. IWM, trying to hold 212.71. I'm using IWM as a gauge. When IWM starts to show strength again, that will be convincing for me. It is a risk-on asset, and right now, crypto dumped today. Look at that crypto dump. We're seeing risk off. And IWM is showing risk off as well. We need a daily trend change back to bulls if we're going to say risk on. Hourly trend change back to the bulls needed if we're going to set a daily high or low. Bulls have a lot of pressure tomorrow on IWM, and XBI is the same thing, very correlated. Trying to hold the low, hourly trend change back to the bulls needed, need to break the high of today tomorrow for the daily high or low to be set, to then be looking back up towards daily resistance. IWM is the same thing. Have to change the hourly trend to get a daily bounce going, and even then, we're just going to scout a daily low or high. There's a lot of space for it. Bulls have lots of proving to do on tons of individual names. Apple is going to be a back burner. Forgot this. Daily consolidation if we break the low of today tomorrow, and it'll be an hourly oversold back burner coming off all-time highs, scouting a daily high or low. So keep an eye on that. The dollar is sideways. So again, we had the range here of 1 day, and we've been within it for 2 weeks now. Lower high, higher low, just tightening up. If we see red tomorrow, then it's probably going to be Wednesday FOMC that determines how this sideways range breaks. It's either a weekly bull flag that's going to confirm, or a failed weekly bull flag that's going to see more prolonged consolidation. And with that sideways range, gold is doing the same thing. Sideways. Trying to change the daily trend. Bulls must break 1793 to get a weekly bounce going. And there's a lot of space to scout a weekly lower high to be the result of this bounce. Other trades I took today, MARA was a 5-minute falling wedge. I jumped the gun on it and took a half-day loser, trying to be a little bit too aggressive, but it redeemed itself. I redeemed myself. So I was watching this back burner. And again, when I'm trading MARA, I'm watching Bitcoin and QQQ very closely. And I was just a bit too premature. I was looking for this to be a 5-minute high or low. So I made an entry off of here, stopped out when this lower wick broke, and then said, all right, be patient, you jerk. Wait for a trend line touch of support to be looking for an entry, and then played this bounce to make back the half-day loser and then some. But all in all, a very uneventful day for me. It's felt like a very uneventful month, but I just went back and looked at 8 trading days in the month, and I've got 8 day makers, so I'm, right on schedule. It's just no very eventful day. Some days I'm up a day maker, a day and a half maker. Some days I'm down a day maker. But I would love to close out the month and the year with just hitting a day maker every day. So how many trading days we got left? We got 1 holiday mixed in. They're taking away New Year's holiday from us. We've only got 1 day off to end the year. But we've got 13 trading days left in the year. Plan accordingly. And it's almost time to review our trades. You can start reviewing them now. Review things. What are your goals for next year? What do you want to do different? How are you going to change game plans, etc.? And I'll make a video on the topic. I've had some pretty interesting revelations in 2021 with my trading, year 11, and things that I've never experienced before. So looking forward to talk about those very interesting psychological phenomenon. Self-sabotage, intentional self-sabotage. All right. I'll put that video out sometime in the next 3 weeks. Hope you have a good rest of your day. Don't forget to do good things. Adventure series time. And again, these videos are from years ago. I always get messages from people thinking it's right here and now. But this is 3 years old, talking about a road trip from 10 years ago. See you tomorrow. So chapter 6 of the adventure, we had headed west. We hit Boulder, and I was staying with that woman. Got the house sitting gig for a month. And I actually did trade a bit when I had that house sitting gig because I had stable internet and I had a routine and I could be more focused on it. So I was still trading penny stocks at that point. This was maybe 5-6 years ago. And I had a couple weeks until I started house sitting. So I explored Colorado. That's the kind of green you want to see. Tons of places to camp, tons of things to see. Utah and Colorado is a great chunk of land. And I haven't explored northern Utah. I wanted to. I had a road trip that was planned through northern Utah, through the northwest part of the country. I'm going to have to put that on my next to-do list later this summer. First, I'm going to be going back to Colorado in May, so I will bring my camera. All these pictures are with my phone, but I'll bring my camera, and I'm going to explore a bit more of Colorado and see some shows at the Red Rocks and have some fun, but that's for another time. So this time around, plenty of places to camp. My favorite part about Colorado is that there are rivers, so many places coming off of mountains. And so that made two things very easy. Number one, getting the fresh water and filtering it to drink. And then number two, being able to have things. You don't want to be, have a cooler and have food that needs to be kept cool when you're road tripping across the country. It's just constantly needing ice and then those plastic bags. And it's just, when you have ice cold water coming off the mountain, I would just pull over and fill up my cooler with cold water and then put stuff that needed refrigeration in it. And then, 12 hours later, 20 hours later, I can just dump that water out and refill it with other cold water. So the water in Colorado is not for swimming. You can jump in and enjoy it for a brief amount of time, but it is very cold coming off of those mountains, especially in May and June. And I believe it was June now, heading towards July. But tons of great places to camp and lots of solitude. My favorite part about getting to a place that was a couple miles into the trail and had a nice clearing like this where, it's just a lake and the forest is knowing that at about 4 or 5 p.m., no new people are going to be getting up to that spot. And that's because you can't hike up there and have enough time to get back before it's getting dark. So there's this lull time before it gets dark where everybody stops coming up. And so you have it to yourself during that dusk time when the sun's going down. This is the baby elk that I snuck up on. And again, it's just being still and very slowly moving. It's just a game of, watching animals and trying to get close to them. There were no mothers or fathers around, which was good. So there's plenty of spots like this all over, and I can't stress enough how if you go to freecampingsites.net and you look at BLM land, and BLM land is the same as National Forest land to a certain degree. It's government owned. There's very little regulation on camping in terms of where you can camp, and it's just this big public lands that we have, to take advantage of. This, I believe, is getting towards Rocky Mountain National Park, one of the spots near the entrance. These are marmots. So pretty much a giant squirrel, if I had to describe them, somewhat like a raccoon, but they would live under the rocks, and you could tell what rocks they lived under because the rim around it was all bright green and lush, and the grass, immediately after the rocks was a little bit dry and arid. And that's because of their waste. They just pop out of their hole and they go to the bathroom, and that, fertilizes all the plants that are around their rock. So you can tell where they live, and they were curious and friendly. If you pee on a rock, they really enjoy the salt and the water, and they'll run and lick it up. And their lives, they just live in areas like this where that's all they know. That's their life. They sit on their rock and they overlook the expanse. There would be times where I would be alone in a spot and I would sit there and a marmot would jump up on his rock and he'd just be observing everything with me and just hanging out in the dusk. And they get curious if you don't move. So if I sat there for an hour, he might, get used to my presence and come and check me out and see what's going on once he realizes that I'm not a threat. So that's the start of Colorado. We'll continue going westward over the Rocky Mountain National Park. Looking forward to going back there again in May, and open to any suggestions of places. I'm probably going to hit up Telluride, Steamboat Springs, and Rocky Mountain National Park, Boulder. I'm going to see Papadosio in Red Rocks. I got a buddy in that band, and Random Rab and Polish Ambassador opening up. So that should be a fun show. That'll be in a few months, and I'll be sure to bring you all along. So have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you over the weekend.